Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the ACB sessions. Today is episode 3, where we will be discussing some of the things that we have done in the past month, and we'll be discussing whether we feel like we've achieved those things, or whether we need to maybe work on them some more, and we'll be discussing what we want to achieve in the upcoming month, and just kind of have some open conversations as we have been doing so far in the previous episodes, which you can find on our YouTube. Why don't we just get into it straight away, because we've been struggling with this intro for so long that I feel like the best approach would be to just go right into it. How are you doing, Jake?
I am doing all right, mate. Are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Feeling a little bit tired today. I feel like there's a whole bunch of stuff to talk about, which I'm very excited.
Well, let's start with you then. Today actually signifies a bit of a turning point for you, or a returning point maybe, where you've been able to go back to the gym again, which I know is something that keeps you, grounded and is a constant for you. So how, maybe that's probably added to why you're a little more tired than you would have been the last month, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it was almost, I guess a cathartic sort of experience, because I haven't been able to go to the gym for so long. So I had an operation in my back, which meant that I couldn't go to the gym for at least a month. And that's quite a vital part of my life. It's something I enjoy doing a lot, not only because I enjoy going, but also because it makes me feel really good. And it sort of sets things in stone, which means I can sort of transfer that sort of energy into other parts of my life. And that's been sorely missing. So to come back to the gym today has given me all sort of motivation to do anything else that I want to be achieving as well. So thanks for asking, man. And it felt like a huge win to go back again, and I'm very excited to be going daily basically again.
Weight off your shoulders. Hey.
Weight off my shoulders while I put another one on.
Hey, wow.
Yeah,
but that's really good. I'm glad you're back to it, and I'm sure you'll get back to feeling, fighting fit again. And because it's frustrating when, of course, you want to progress, but like physical limitation, or if you've got to heal up, then you've just got to kind of listen to your body until you're done healing. Otherwise, you'll be worse off, obviously. Yeah,
exactly. And that's the beauty of it, isn't it? So I guess that's one thing to talk about. But for you specifically, you've been wanting to work on your nutrition a bit, and you've been doing some exercise yourself as well. How do you feel that's been going?
Could be better, is the honest truth. The stuff with the dietary stuff, I think I really need to work out. I've been doing some like meal prep, which I know is like good food. I'm just like batch cooking stuff really, so that I know that if I have got to, do extra work or whatever, or just time runs away as it does, especially when you're like doing editing or whatever, and you're not working with other people like in person at least. Time can kind of just run away, and then before you know it, it's whatever o'clock and you're like, oh Christ, I haven't eaten. So to have some meal prep just like ready there to eat, that's good for me. Otherwise you tend to just like reach for whatever else is convenient, maybe a snack, or I'm a bit of a biscuit monster, cookie monster. Only one cookie. But yeah, to like kind of offset that, I've just been batch cooking, like I said, something that's going to last me a good like 2 or 3 days, and if there's extra, whack it in the freezer. And then
you sent me a beautiful lasagna the other day. That was delicious,
dude. I've made 2. I think I made 2 in the last 2 weeks. So,
oh man, but it's a good source of protein. Getting your carbs in there as well.
For sure. And I'm also just, I think when you cook from scratch as well, like anyway, that's going to be better for you. And obviously you know what's going in it, and it's a good skill to maintain as well. And also it's something to look forward to is that there's just something different about if you cook something yourself, and sometimes
And it tastes good.
but sometimes you like nail it and you're like, God, I would be happy having that from a restaurant there, and it doesn't happen like all the time, but like when you get it like spot on, that's really quite rewarding for me.
And I'm someone who doesn't mind eating the same recipe over and over again, especially if it means I can make it or try and make it better every time.
For sure.
Yeah. So I like meal prepping myself as well. I've not been doing too much meal prepping lately, but that's definitely something we're going to be talking about in a bit.
Yeah, for sure. While we're on food, what I'm having this evening is like a sort of bolognese, but I'm going to do a big old, I guess like a tray worth, like this glass dish, kind of like that.
Yeah.
And I've got like all the fruit. Sorry, not all the fruit. Well, I guess some of the fruit, because tomato is a fruit, in fact. And all the veggies out of my fridge, and I'm just going to whack everything together, and it will not only be cooked nicely, and it will just last me a few days, but then I, don't have to have tons and tons of stuff in my fridge to use up and try and think up whatever with in a few days' time when I haven't got as much brain capacity to think about doing it.
And that's the best thing about meal prepping. When I was doing meal prepping a couple of years ago, full force, then it made my life so much easier because I was shopping the food on Saturday and then basically cooking all the food the day after, or sometimes the same day as well. And it just made my life a lot easier during the week because it meant I had at least one meal a day sorted out, but then sometimes also 2 meals a day. So I quite intense meal prepping, and it saves so much time. Like for breakfast, for example, I do overnight oats.
Oh, that's a great idea.
So I'd pre-buy those ingredients then on that Saturday, and then all I have to do is the day before each day, I just put the ingredients into like a bowl or a glass or whatever, and then I'd have that ready the next morning. I don't have to worry about cooking or anything.
Well, how do you make yours?
How do I make mine?
Yeah,
I like mine with vegan Greek yogurt.
Sorry.
Sorry, I made mine with Greek yogurt. And syrups, it's like maple syrup or agave syrup, loads of seeds, whether it's chia seeds or any other kinds of seeds like pumpkin seeds as well. Different kinds of nuts, maybe like walnuts or pecan nuts. Fruits you can put in there. I like putting peanut butter in there as well, or almond butter. And just trying to get the protein, so I can put protein powder in there as well. Think of the fiber and then all the different vitamins, like the oils and stuff like that you get from the seeds and the nuts. So just trying to cover all bases. But pretty much. You can put in some granola as well. It's quite
granola.
Nice. Yeah, granola.
Love that advert. Granola. You know what you could try? Try it with. I've done it before. A little bit of sweet cinnamon, and or nutmeg. Bloody lovely.
Yeah, I like cinnamon. Less of a fan of nutmeg, but I'll definitely try the cinnamon.
As long as it's a little bit, all you need is a little hint. Because
true.
Do you know what I was thinking? Like when you have like those yogurts and custards and whatever, when you think of like a custard tart, those little brown flecks on the top, that is nutmeg.
Is it? Oh, okay.
So I was like, well, it seems to go well with that. Let's try it on this, and I did that. I don't know, before the pandemic maybe, and I've just been doing it since. And
that's nice.
Works for me at least.
And just to get a little bit more sidetracked talking about food, one of my favorite restaurant chains, Mowgli, do these little they're called chat bombs. They're like little round batter balls with yogurt inside them, but they put in like cumin and spices like that in there as well. and it's really nice, man.
Oh, it works.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, and they've got these. Do you know what Bombay mix is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so they put little pieces and bits of the Bombay mix in there as well, and oh man, it's heavenly.
Stop it.
So
Stop
good.
it. I haven't eaten.
Anyways, we're getting very sidetracked there.
We should do this after dinner next time.
But I guess a point I could sort of relate to all this food is and nutrition wise as well, is that if we incorporate foods that do make us go like, oh, I really want to eat this, into our meals during the week, whatever goals you want to achieve, then that makes reaching those goals so much easier.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as long as you stay balanced and you get in all your protein, fiber, whatever macronutrients, blah blah, all that stuff, vitamins, then and you're hitting the calories you want to be hitting, whether you're trying to gain weight or lose weight, then I think just
Sure.
incorporate those little treats in there.
And also, you know, I think people get caught up in just the maybe raw ingredients. So if someone, if you were to say, if someone said, "Oh, what do you have for dinner?" I'll go, "Oh, I had chicken and rice." It doesn't mean I just had some basic chicken and rice.
Yeah.
It means like I've maybe marinated a thing, or there's a nice sauce, right? It's like properly seasoned and lots of it. You know,
Yeah, it doesn't have to be bland.
no, it doesn't have to be. You can just take like the most basic of things and just make it into.
Just buy some nice spices and use them, and learn what flavors work well with each other.
And just like experiment and get things wrong, you know.
Yeah.
And
Don't be
every
afraid.
now and again, you'll get something right, or obviously you're going to learn as you go, and so things that you go right. I've got this, and this. I'll be 10 minutes into cooking, whatever. I'll go, I don't even know what I'm making yet, but something's cooking, and I'll figure it out.
See, I prefer just getting a recipe, whether it's from Instagram or wherever else I find online, and just following that. A little bit less adventurous in that sense, but I guess because I do that just to try and save time so I can do other things. But I'd be open to trying some of your food, and then as long as you make it vegan.
Yeah, good luck.
And
Got
then
vegan cows in the garden, they will eat grass.
Getting inspired.
Yeah,
Oh,
hashtag get
dear.
inspired.
Yeah.
Right, so tell me, if you don't mind moving on a little
Sure.
way from this, how's everything going with the jobs?
With the jobs. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a frustrating journey. I kind of got the feeling, well, I knew that we were going to be talking about it today, obviously, because that's one of my main things that I want to achieve in this year, and definitely within the next month now, as I have set myself that target. And I've been applying, and nothing seems to be happening. But that's, I think, down to a number of reasons. One is that I'm applying to jobs that maybe are a little bit too much out of my experience zone, something that is more of a long shot, and then other things where it just was bad timing, or some things just didn't fall into place. Like I had a really nice call with this guy called Carl, and it was for an audio engineering job, and he said, "Oh yeah, we're looking for someone actually, and I'm glad you called." And then I sent my CV over. I don't know whether it was my CV or whether they were actually telling the truth, but then he basically emailed me and said, we're actually not looking for new staff anymore because of something that happened. And that kind of made me go like, okay, are you just saying that because you don't want to hire me, or is that actually true? Or so yeah, just been dealing with that kind of stuff, and I've been finding that a lot of the jobs at the moment, are a lot more than what I remember when I was applying to jobs a couple of years ago, is being run by agencies. So agencies that work on behalf of companies hiring, so recruitment agencies, I should say. And they're quite frustrating to work with because they've not been getting back to me, or just kind of forgetting about me, and just feel like that's maybe not the best approach. But a lot of, if not most of the companies hiring tend to use those because I guess it's easier for them. So that's a little bit of a road bump, obstacle.
Spanner in the works.
Yeah. But I'm still trying, putting out my CV wherever I can, and I'm determined to make it happen this month. Then I said myself in the next 2 weeks, I'd like to get somewhere with the jobs, because then I can move on to the next phase, if you want to call it that, which is finding a flat to move into.
Hey.
And I've said to myself that April 7th is still something that I'm very keen on making happen, but I don't want to rush it at the same time. So I don't want to move into somewhere just for the sake of that, accomplishing that date, because if it's a rubbish place to live in, then I'd rather wait a little bit longer and make sure I get the right place to live in.
Definitely.
But as a general sort of idea, I do want to keep it to that date.
General idea,
yeah. And see if I can make that happen. It's just, it's the 10th of March today, and that date is going to come very, very soon. So we'll see. I'm hopeful, but I'm also a bit I don't know what word I'm looking for. I think just
being realistic, maybe.
Trying to be realistic.
Yeah.
Feel a little bit let down by a lot of employers and recruiters, because it's just making my life a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
You're at their mercy a bit there, though.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just how it goes. That's just what
job
hunting is.
But you're showing up for yourself. You've gone through multiple different ways of applying to things. So,
yeah,
like we've said to each other over the last few weeks, you're at least however many failures closer to success.
Yeah, and I like viewing it that way, because it kind of makes me go, okay, yeah, this didn't work how I wanted to, but it helps me be more optimistic, and just it doesn't drag me down, but it does the opposite in the long run, at least. Because if you view every single application as a failure, then you just kind of go sort of downhill. But at least at the moment, I feel it's more of a steady, not exactly decline, it's kind of like fluctuating. But we'll see how that goes. I'm excited, and I know I will get something. Something will come eventually.
Yeah, of course you will.
Something has to give, because it's impossible not to. Some fish will bite, and we'll see how that goes.
Some things that we think are maybe like a downward spiral is actually a bit of an uphill struggle, and then that climb is worth it, even if you can't see the summit just yet, or if you're not there. And even when you get there, there's going to be the next thing.
Yeah. But this is just this kind of struggle, if you will, just I suppose it prepares you for that next struggle, if you want to call it that. But I think maybe don't call it struggle, call it path or something. I try not to label things as like positive or negative. I find that helps as well, because these things that happen to you, the only way that makes them good or bad is the way that you view them. And I suppose that helps as well, because if I say, okay, this happened, I'm not going to say it was good or bad. I can distance myself from that situation, from that job application or whatever else in life, and just move on to the next thing, and not have to hold on to that thing happening before, basically.
For sure, man. Well, just keep with it. I'll make sure you do, as you know.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and you've been doing a good job with that. You've been yeah, on my case, which I really appreciate. I feel like I could be better with you, a bit more consistent with keeping you accountable.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're both. I'm very much in a what's the word? I'm very much in like a transitional period where I'm trying to get this business off the ground. So there's like a lot of self-motivation that needs to happen. And like I said in episode 2, I was very much laser focused on that thing. And I mean, obviously life happens whether you're ready for it or not. And you know, the honest truth is we probably never really will be ready, whatever that even means. But I just keep ticking along, and I think I said to you just in conversation that even though maybe I'm not exactly where I want to be, I'm still like making so much more progression by default than I would have been a year ago. You know,
and I feel that same way.
Oh yeah,
as
I
well.
see it in you as well.
Yeah.
And that's one of the best things in life is seeing your mates do well. That's why I so want this all, which I know it will, but I look forward to this all paying off for you. And yeah, that's just like I said, one of the best feelings, seeing your mates succeed.
I'm with you, man. I'm definitely with you. So you talked last time as well about your sort of job situation, and I just wanted to see where you were at with that at the moment, what your thoughts are with that, if you're willing to share.
My past job.
So last time you were, if I remember correctly from the episode, is that you had some exciting news. I don't know if you want to share that. And you also talked about your past job a little bit, but I don't know if you want to share about that either. Just, I think in general, just what your thoughts are about jobs, because I know you've got your own company that you're working on, and whether you want to fully focus on that or whether you're looking for other jobs at the same time. Or
the part-time job that I had wasn't really serving me anymore. There wasn't much I could do. It wasn't really running the best way that was suitable for me. So it gave me what I like to call the push. And I was pushed enough to the point where I was like, right, not just by, staff, but, and not that I'm one for all the universe and signs and that, but when the universe is kind of pointing and gives you enough of the push to go and do your thing, then it's maybe smart to at least listen to it a little. And so I did, and I left that job. I had a little bit of savings that would buy me a little bit of time. And in the last month, I have joined for my production company. I'm in the local business directory. I have my website all sorted and everything. I don't know if I had this the time before, but I got a whole bunch of flyers for everything, which I've got a whole CRM Excel spreadsheet, which is a customer relations management sheet. So it just lists the business or the person and their info basically.
Yeah.
And I think on that first week that after I left that job, that part-time job, I made 60 something calls the second day.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was just
it's really
bang,
impressive.
like
really impressive.
Full steam ahead. And I was like, yeah, I know that burst of energy might run out, but while I had the energy, I was like, well, you're gonna bloody well use it. So and then the other days where I wasn't like full of energy, but I could prep for when that comes back around. Because when you're doing a business on your own, you've got lots of hats to wear, lots of bases to cover, and guitars.
Very good.
What was I saying? And I've also got 2 trademarks for this business that I submitted and that are now approved.
Boom.
So that means I'm completely covered for the next 10 years. And actually, which was really lovely this morning by chance, is that I got a nice little tax rebate through the 2 tax returns that I done, which is a ball ache, everybody, as I'm sure you might know. But I got a nice little sum which I was able to use to cover the cost of the trademark setup fees, which was a right fluke.
Well, look at that.
Because I thought that money was sunk, basically, and that's how I was going about it. So that being returned has actually bought me a week extra to figure all this out, basically.
Good. So
yeah,
that's the plan at the moment. You've saved money up, and
a little bit. Honestly, at the minute, I'm kind of bleeding money because there's lots of startup costs and lots of things to consider and lots of just things you wouldn't expect. And again, life is just happening. And even though I've got my overheads fairly low, when you're starting a business and it's just you, and you're trying to convince and kind of market your product that is something new, that's obviously going to take a little while. But I thought, I've really got to have these trademarks in place, which I now do have, that I can put the other bit of savings into marketing and not be worried that my business name or whatever it is my services will be in any kind of jeopardy.
Sure.
So yeah, it's kind of all in on that. And as well as that, I think there's a couple of other things I'm trying to do. Maybe too much at the same time, perhaps, because there's all the filming that I want to do. So I have a film production company. Filming one, I want to do and offer as services for clients. Mm-hmm. But then there's my own filmmaking content. Well, not just content, my own films, my own music. I've been releasing an album for the last God knows how long, and it still ain't happened. I haven't even got the drums recorded. But there's just like all this stuff, and everything takes money and everything takes time, and
and you've only got so many hours in the day.
Oh, dude, I swear the time just like flies by. It really does, and you blink, and it's like the next week, and it's the next week.
But that's why I kind of get. Sorry to go off topic, but I kind of get why you see all these celebrities allegedly waking up at 5 a.m. and doing all that crazy routine, and be like, okay, I tried waking up at 7 a.m. and I did feel like I had a lot more of the day, but to me it just wasn't necessarily the most sustainable thing to do. So I felt like, okay, maybe I can find a better point in the day to wake up 8 a.m. for example, and I'll have enough, well, not really enough time, but at least enough energy to devote to each thing that I want to do. And that's the struggle, really, isn't it? Not just having the time, but also the energy, and the mental energy, the physical energy to try and put that into all of the projects that you want to achieve. Definitely.
And especially when you're doing stuff like we're doing, creative things, we don't have the same structure of a 9 to 5, and even if we did, we wouldn't be content with calling it at 5 o'clock.
No,
there would be more creative stuff and more things, and I don't know, there would be, I don't know, a film we want to watch, or a music we want to record, or our own businesses that we want to do.
So there's always an element of sacrifice, isn't there? You're sacrificing one thing to
there
be able
is
to do
there is
that.
in everything, and that's why I will always ask, what's the alternative? As often as I can remember to ask that of myself. Otherwise, you do get caught up in sometimes pointless things and sometimes important things, but you also need to put it down because you can't do everything in one day.
Yeah, but this is also why it's good to have an accountability partner, because then they can also help you with, okay, this makes sense right now, and this is a little bit of a pointless thing to do. Unless you love doing it, then I don't think it's pointless. But keeping that one goal in mind that you set yourself, and that you said to your accountability partner, okay, remind me this, or I'm gonna kick you in the bum.
That was very polite.
Yeah.
Right in the old bummage, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah. So basically, just have a partner to help you stick to your goals, but also keep yourself accountable. And that's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to achieve and stay on track.
Well, I think it's all about balance. At least it is for me. Not that I'm always the best at it, but the principle, obviously, I know and understand. But I think you want something to get up for and something to come home to. And having that push-pull just, allows for balance to be possible in your life, I think. Right, so some notes I took from episode 2, a more consistent dietary plan, which I'm yet to do, to stay consistent and to not be discouraged, which obviously, like I said, in the business sort of stuff, you've got to hold yourself accountable as well as having a great accountability partner. To take a break when I need one, which is something I'm probably still not the best at doing, because I'll just keep going and going and going. I'm like, that'll only take quarter of an hour, but it doesn't, because I'm a perfectionist, and it would take me 2, 3, 4 times as long to actually do it, because then I'll notice another thing and I go, oh well, if that's that way. When you're editing, geez, I get so like, I try to go like so into it. And the other one is, well, the last one is to continue to edit my life relentlessly. And I think that I have stuck to that one.
Do you mind explaining that again for people who maybe haven't seen the past episodes?
So to edit your life, or for me to edit my life, is to, I guess, just reassess some things, reset, rebalance, make sure that the things I'm giving my energy to are worth it, and make sure that, say it's people, that they're getting what they need from me, and that if something's not meeting you halfway, then maybe it's time to reconsider have a little rethink.
Sure. So
that's pretty much what it is.
And you said you've been doing that quite religiously.
I would say I do it across the board, in the sense of I'm something of a minimalist, so I like to have as least things as possible. Obviously, there's plenty of stuff I need to make my content and all that sort of stuff with. There's some things that are nice to haves, and actually becoming more minimalist has made me more materialistic, I would say.
Has it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
And I would say, in the sense that I really value the time and effort it's gone in to make this material thing. I'm not so much talking attachment-wise, but I'm saying appreciation-wise.
So would you say then that of the little things that you have now compared to before, you value them more than if you just had a bunch of stuff that you maybe would value a bit less?
I would say so. I mean, like when we were kids and we had 5 channels on the telly or less, they were all like spot on. Now you've got thousands. There's too much to choose from. Or, I'm sure loads of people have had it with their partners, and you go, are you ready to go out yet? Oh, there's nothing to wear in the wardrobe, when they've got literally 100 clothes to pick from. Do you know what I mean? And too much choice isn't always helpful.
Selection
good
paralysis.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so, I've got a nice selection of instruments here, but there's one of each. There's not 15 electric guitars. There's one.
Yeah, and there's a similar thing with drum sets as well. There's a debate of, am I going to go for a Neil Peart kit with loads of different parts where he has to even turn his chair so he can play the entire kit, or am I going to go for more of a, say, Steve Jordan approach, who's all about hi-hat, snare drum, kick drum, basically three instruments, and he doesn't need anything else because he will rock your socks off with just
and a couple
those
of
three
sticks
instruments.
wouldn't
He probably doesn't need those either.
No.
You've got Benny Greb. I know I'm going into drummer terminology and nerdiness, but Benny Greb, I mean, he literally did a part of one of my favorite drum solos of his with his bare hands, and it was bloody amazing, yeah. And you've got Nate Smith.
I was thinking Nate Smith.
Yeah, who dropped one of his drumsticks and he just kept going with one hand, and it was amazing. And I don't think many drummers could do that.
Someone else I really love who sticks to usually like that 3-piece kit is Dan Mayo. Oh, that guy! Oh my life!
Yeah,
ridiculous.
Yeah,
really
insane.
Another guy. I don't know if you know him, but I used to work with him at a uni I worked at in London. Richard Spaven.
Yeah,
he has some insane technique with anything he uses.
Yeah, he's
but
awesome.
even on a 3-piece kit, it's just unreal to see someone of that caliber in person.
And actually, one of the main drummers who made me think about this is a guy called Jojo Mayer, and he literally says that limitation breeds creativity.
Yeah, 110%.
And I fully agree with that, because the little options you have, then you're going to start exploring. I went to a Mark Juliana masterclass. He came to ICMP.
I went as well.
And he said, okay, I mean, there's many things that he said that stuck out, and I could talk about this forever, but I'm not going to. But basically, he played a drum solo, and he went, okay, so what did I do here that maybe is different from what you'd expect? And he said, okay, well, I didn't play any of my cymbals until the last bit of that solo. So he only played around with his snare drum and the toms and his kick drum, and he turned the snare drums, like the snares, on and off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So he had them off, and then they came on, and then he experimented with the pitch that you can find on the snare drum. So if you play it more on the edge, closer to the rim of the snare drum, that makes more of a higher pitch kind of noise, and then the way you hit the stick on, whether it's like a full-on rim shot or just the stick tip, or I mean, it's amazing the amount of creative freedoms you have if you just spend a little bit of time thinking about it, and that's transferable to other parts of life. But I guess because I'm a drummer and I love to nerd out about drums, that's the way I think about it, and then I try and think about life from a drummer's perspective, I suppose.
Mm-hmm. And there's something definitely to that, and I draw parallels from music and practice and all of that and put it into whatever else. And a lot of when you're maybe like building speed of a certain lick or run or a mode or whatever it be, if you can play it slow, you can play it fast, and the slower you can play it, the better, because a lot of you can make it sound legible enough to play something 150 beats per minute on guitar, say alternate picking, and it's fine. It might be a little sloppy, but can you play it at 50 beats per minute? That's the one. And I learnt that from another friend of mine, Lasse. Shout out Lasse, great drummer as well, by the way. And because I would always do my metronome at maybe 70, 80, something like that, for just general practice.
Sure.
And he was like, see if you can get it to 50, because I mean, for a guitar, if you're strumming a single note, then it's fine. Alternate picking, you can do pretty easily at 70, 80, it's no problem. But when you're a drummer, you would think about it differently, because then you're fitting lots and lots of notes within that time frame at some point, and when that's not your main instrument, you won't always consider it that way. And there's different types of ghost notes that either schools of thought would have brought up or not.
Well, the parallel I would bring between the drums and guitar, for example, is for example with a single stroke or a double stroke on the drums, there's always going to be a space of time between each hit that you have, and that's the same for when you pick a string.
Absolutely.
So if you the reason why having a metronome low, sometimes I even go as low as 40, but that's quite extreme, because I think 30 beats per minute is basically impossible to play, because it's the beats are so far apart from each other. 40 makes it just about
You have to
manageable.
do it on feeling though, right?
Yeah, but that's another topic, another way of doing it as well, just basing it on instinct almost. But yeah, if we say 50, then if I'm doing a double stroke, so like the space in between is something that I need to really think about, and not only think but feel. And okay, first hit is easy, but then the second hit, when is that going to come? And as soon as that becomes more natural, then it will feel more natural at the higher BPMs. And it's the same on guitar, it's the same on bass.
Definitely.
I'm sure, you know.
And that's if, I mean, say you're doing, for me, if I'm doing alternate picking, which I don't actually do quite a lot of because of the style I play. But when you start taking those, when you start taking those practices down and not just sticking to a 4/4, now we're getting to interesting territory. If you're doing triplets on like flamenco technique, that's getting real difficult. It's very difficult to do it fast anyway for me, because I'm not that, used to playing like that. I'm not Matteo Mancuso, Jesus, but I'm just like, well, he can. It's clearly possible, and I think that's a lot of his knowing something's possible, and then slowing that right down, and then slowly building back up, and just sticking with it, and again, not being discouraged with all of that, and that also plays into the editing my life thing. I'm like, right, if the way I'm approaching this task isn't working, then we need to change it up a bit, or maybe you need more consistency, or someone who knows better.
or total curveball, just leave it alone for a while, because sometimes the best way to approach something that you've been working at consistently for ages and nothing seems to be working, is just to leave it alone and do something else, and then come back to it later, or sleep on it, or whatever, because your brain needs time to figure it out outside of the actual practice time, and that applies to all skills, not just music.
Definitely. And I would you just made me think of when I was first teaching myself guitar, really, and I was coming outside of just open chords, and my cousin had learnt bar chords, and he's a couple of years older than me, and I really wanted to be able to do it. But I mean, if you're used to doing open chords, you don't have the strength in your first finger yet to hold that shape and play it as like an E bar chord, E shaped bar chord, or an A shaped bar chord either. Anyway, but I remember I was like 11 years old or something, and I was just trying and trying and trying. I understood how it worked, and my fingers were not having it. And obviously it's a long time ago, but I think I just put the guitar down for like a couple of weeks, 2 weeks, maybe more. And then I came back to it and I went straight to it.
Yeah.
And like you say, that break is just like what's necessary. It's the same as giving your muscle time to heal. Yeah, that's when the muscle develops, right?
Exactly. In the gym, I think there was a study on it. I won't be able to quote it, but if I vaguely remember, is they measured people who went 6 days a week versus people who went 3 days a week, and the people who went 6 days a week, they trained just as hard as the people who went 3 days a week. And the people who went 3 days a week actually made more gains than the people who went 6 days a week, because their muscles had time to recover,
to heal.
And the other ones were just staying at a plateau. They weren't really moving anywhere. And I suppose that happens everywhere else in life. And the only thing that happens if you keep trying something and you're not listening to your body, you're not listening to any source of reason, I suppose, you're just going to get frustrated with it, and it's not going to be a pretty sight at the end of the day, I suppose.
Yeah, probably not.
No.
So yeah, rest is absolutely important and part of the process. And bless you to whoever sneezed just then. I imagine your mother.
Yes, indeed.
Are there any other points that you wanted to talk about? Do you have any other notes that you've got from the other session?
No, those were all the points I wanted to talk about from the notes I took from the last session. But I do have some notes going forward for the next month.
Yeah, tell me, I'm all ears.
So going back to going to the gym again, I'd like to go to the gym 3 times a week minimum, and that's with getting a new job as well. So that's going to happen. I'd like to go 3 times minimum, and then if I can do it, 4 or 5 times maybe, but that's probably going to be a stretch. So I'm trying to be realistic and say, okay, 3 times a week is still really, really good, and it will still allow me to make all the gains and the progress I want to make, whilst giving myself time to achieve everything else I want to do in my life. So gym 3 times a week. I want to start meal prepping again, so doing what you've been doing so well.
Maybe we should swap some recipes and see how we go.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. And I've been meaning to so I've got this collection on Instagram, but I've called it food as my saved, one of my saved collections.
Genius.
Yeah.
Food for food.
Yeah.
God,
well,
my genius is almost frightening.
But yeah, so I've got loads of recipes on there, and I think I'm just gonna go through that and make a list of all my favorites, and then just try and batch cook them and see if I can do that consistently every week. Try and find something that gives me enough of all the nutrients and macros and calories that I need. So that's something else I want to achieve. Moving into the property flat is something I want to achieve. And I want to get back into my so I used to do this daily routine of NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest, which is like a 10-minute meditation almost, except I'm just lying down and I'm trying to be more in touch with my body and how I'm feeling exactly at this moment in time, in my mind, but also physically in my body, trying to pay more attention to that. And that's something that feels quite good, because it feels energizing in a way, and it's almost like a replacement for coffee, because I don't drink coffee, and I feel like if I do that every day, it kind of gives me that little bit more of a boost, so I can survive the rest of the day and I'm not shattered by 6-7 p.m. Because I basically don't drink any caffeine these days, which works well for me. So that's something I want to get back to doing daily again, because I used to do that, but I kind of dropped off that a little bit. But yeah, that's something I wanted to do. What about yourself?
You can ask me that, what about yourself, again in a second, but I was just going to say, off of what you just said, with like the meditation kind of thing, there's a book called 10% Happier by a guy called Dan Harris, and I think he was having panic attacks, and he had a panic attack on live TV because he was a news anchor, and he was like, yeah, this is just no good. And anyway, he thought that meditation, all that, was just bullshit, and then he started doing it, and whoever else he was working with was like, so why'd you do this? He was like, oh, it just makes me like 10% happier. And it wasn't, it fixes my life. It wasn't, this is the be all end all. It was like 10%. Oh, imagine 5%. Jeez, the cumulative effect of 5% better every day.
Well, that's brilliant. I'll check it out, man.
Definitely.
And I guess that's not just meditation, but it's also habits in general. So based off my sort of daily meditation, and trying to sort of improve that habit by doing that every day, is there something similar that you'd like to share?
As in improving on each day?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of things. But I think just keep showing up for myself, really. Just that. And that consistency over time is going to go somewhere. And whether it's to the heights we hope for, who knows? But I think ultimately just try and be the best version of myself. I can't be the best version in every area all at once.
No.
But I would I want to be a guy who I would buy myself a beer kind of guy.
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
nice. So like
yeah,
your
friend
own
to
friend,
yourself.
a friend. Yeah.
Yeah. And because I think it was Mike Tyson who was like, because if you're a friend to everyone else, then you're an enemy to yourself. But I'm the only one stuck with me for my whole existence, so I better bloody well get along, eh? Yeah, I want to just, keep showing up for myself. Finish some projects. That's a lot of what I'm doing at the minute. It's like, yes, I'm getting this business off the ground. I'm putting whatever effort I can into it, which is quite a bloody lot. And I'm working on it every day. There is no day that's gone past that I haven't worked on something and that I haven't at least progressed a bit. So that's real good.
Yeah.
And stuff with the meal prep similar to you, just keep going on that. And just what else?
But I think also just part of showing up for yourself is then also allowing yourself to give yourself breaks. And I think that's something I need to remind you of a bit more too, because like we said before, you're a bit of a perfectionist. You like doing things the right way, which is very admirable. But that also means taking a break, getting some fresh air, going for a walk, or doing any form of exercise, and anything else that sort of helps you not disassociate, but sort of go to a different mental state, more relaxed state, and less focused on, oh, I need to accomplish this, I need to do this, and less focused on the grind, if you will.
And I often multitask as well. I don't know if you're the same, but I'm like, if I'm going to be doing whatever, I want it. I mean, yes, you want all your focus to go in one place, then I can give 100%. But I also don't want my time to be wasted. So, like, if I'm gonna have dinner, I'll watch something rather than just watching a thing on its own.
Yeah,
like, it accomplishes two things.
I think that's called habit stacking.
Habit stacking. There we go.
Yeah.
Not being a nutcase.
Yeah.
And also, if I'm sometimes what I'll do is, right, I've got a film of whatever on, I'll stick that on while I'm eating my grub. When I'm finished eating, I'll give myself 5-10 minutes, and then I'll pick the guitar up, and then I'll just run scales. If I'm all right to watch the rest of the film. Sometimes I end up pausing it and I just crack on with whatever I've got an idea, and I just do that. And then I think, like you said, making sure we take a break. What I class as a break maybe really isn't a break, because at least these days our break is to go in front of another screen, isn't it? So yeah, that's something that I will get to. I also want to read more, which I haven't done in yonks.
That's something I feel like I've been doing quite well recently.
You have been, actually.
I'm really pleased.
You're very consistent with that. So you've been doing some reading on not Eckhart Tolle. You've been reading Eckhart Tolle.
Amongst other things, yeah. So I try and keep a balance of fiction and non-fiction. And I read a really nice fiction book. I forget the name of the author. But it was a really nice book, just something that I got stuck into, and I finished it in less than a week. And those are just nice experiences because you kind of dive into this different world, and you're like, okay, I get to meet all these characters and all their pros and cons, and okay, now this plot thing here happens and whatever, and then you just kind of almost like you're part of that story, and that's what films do. But I feel almost like books do it more for me sometimes.
Oh yeah,
because you have to use your imagination more with the books. So
for sure.
Yeah, so you might imagine the characters wrong, or well, I guess wrong is not the right word, but
it's different interpretation, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's loads of room for interpretation, and that's what I like in general with music as well. Music that's not so clear, where you're like, okay, this person is definitely talking about this in their lyrics or stuff like that.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know if this is an actual term. I'm just making it up on the fly, but it's like the fifth Beatle approach. It's like you are the other character, you know, because they're the ones that you're the camera, basically. Anyway, so I think we've both said kind of what we want to achieve for the month going forward, which is to basically keep going, don't be discouraged, and to sort our batch cooking out, and maybe to each of us, you know, edit things in what we have control over, you know, be that relationships or our stuff. And I think when you often don't even realise how much stuff you carry, as in it can be physical stuff or mental stuff, until you've put it down. You don't even realise, because you know you look back at your younger self and you go, God, like how did I do that or make it through that? That was like massively traumatic or life changing, and we thought, oh, maybe that's it, but here we are.
Well, we're constantly evolving. We're constantly going through different life experiences where we probably later look back and go, yeah, how the hell did I do that? But it's because you just kind of got on with it. You just did it.
Mm-hmm.
You just faced it. Well, I hope, at least for myself, that I would have faced it head on and just dealt with it in the moment.
Yeah. And I think I don't know about you, but I'm usually better in a situation. I always wanted to be a good person to have around in an emergency, because I don't panic and I don't flap, I don't scream my head off, none of that. I just like, right, bosh, sorted, let's go. That's that. Yeah. To the best of my abilities. Obviously, some people have that to a ridiculous degree, but just being able to keep calm in those situations obviously is helpful. So I would say, yeah, overall I'm probably better in a situation. The thing that can get overwhelming is the worry or anxiety about stuff that's happened or what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that is really out of my control, you know, to a degree. You know, you can obviously influence things, but like suffering those imagined troubles, just what's the point?
Yeah.
But you can't always, you know, control that for yourself if your mind's going a bit wild. But maybe that's the point where we have to let go of that school of thought or that way of thinking and go, let's try, I don't know, the meditation. Let's try, go for a walk, talk to a mate, whatever.
Any way to sort of break that cycle and just have a little bit of change here and there as well. Change is something that we fear, but change is something that's really good for us. Whether that's when you go on walks, are you going to go on the same walk every single day, the same the same amount of steps, or are you going to change it up and, okay, today I'm going to take the left path and tomorrow I'll take the right, or not even tomorrow, just thinking in the present moment, okay, today now I'm going to walk this way because I feel something pulling me in that direction, whatever you want to say.
It's the dog on the end of the lead.
Yeah. Well, For me, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn and face the strange changes.
Nice.
Don't want to be a richer man. Actually, I do.
Yeah.
But do you know what? I'll tell you one thing that I don't want to change is this, in a way, because people forget or don't even consider that these are the good old days. Like, you're in them. We're making them now, and we don't have, our own families to, spend our time with and that sort of stuff. Obviously, we've got our family members who are our parents and siblings and whatever. But right now we are fairly unattached, and I know I'll look back in time and be like, oh, those were the good old days. Like, we had it pretty freaking sweet, and days where having LEDs up were acceptable. Do you know what I mean? And we're marching to the beat of our own drum, quite literally. Although I'm not in a marching band, so maybe not that literally. I could be.
Yeah, you could be. Yeah.
I'm hypothetically marching to my own drum.
Yeah.
I've only got sticks these days, so.
Well, so you could be,
Yeah.
There you go.
I sold me kit ages ago.
You're halfway there to the marching band already.
Living on a prayer. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just being in this place and being able to make as much musical or otherwise racket as necessary is amazing, so with all this, you have what's called I think it's called the hedonic treadmill, where it's like you get this, what's next, and the next thing, and it's like you of course the next thing is great and you love it for 5 minutes, and then what's next, because we're never satisfied, because everything comes to a new normal. And then you start again. This is why the summit of one mountain is the trough of another, and so on. And so you will always be going. But in a way, that's a good thing.
It is. It's good to have that drive, but you also need to just be content and happy with what you have right now in terms of even down to the little details, and just pay more attention and be more present. And that's what brings joy and happiness, is just that presence and being like, right now, I'm doing this thing, I have these things, and that's great. And I know that that's not going to stay the same forever, because I want to get to that next level, I guess. And then I will appreciate the things I have then and the people I have then. But for now, all I can do is appreciate and be grateful for the things I have.
Oh, absolutely. And being grateful and like really acknowledging all you have to be grateful for is a really good reset, because then you're like, I'm sorted. I'm set.
Yeah.
And
it sorts you right out. It reduces stress and anxiety.
Definitely, because even if you've had an argument with somebody or whatever, you could feel entitled to be pissed off at that person.
Yeah.
But then if you do, you know what happens? Your cortisol spikes up, and then you spend the next, whatever it is, 8 hours, your body trying to calm down and get back to some sense of normality. Whereas if you can kind of keep a lid on it or have a better outlet for it, then that's the way to go. Doesn't always happen, obviously, but ideally.
Sure, yeah. So I think with that in mind, we can bring this episode to a close, unless you have anything else to say.
No, I'm all good. I'm all worded out.
We've got our goals, our targets set out for next month. I know what I need to do. You know what you need to do.
I'm going to promptly avoid all of it.
Yep, me too. Just hermit mode.
That's the one.
And we'll see you next month with an update on how everything's going. Hopefully things will have gone to plan for me, and hopefully you'll be able to keep being consistent, keep showing up for yourself, which I have no doubt that you will. And we'll report back. So thank you everyone for watching this episode with Jake and myself, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you, mate. Cheers.